Battles unfold on the tabletop plane. Strategies drawn in the heat of the game. Figures align in the miniature frame. Victory whispers through the thunderous rain. Each move a dance in a silent ballet. Clash of minds in a tactical fray. Through painted lands where armies convey the thrill of conquest at the break of day. Miniature worlds where stories are told. Warriors clash as the battles unfold. In the heart of the game, courage takes hold. Realm of strategy, daring and unfold on the tabletop plane. Strategies drawn in the heat of the game. Figures align in the miniature frame. Victory whispers through the thunderous rain. Each move a dance in a silent ballet. Clash of minds in a tactical fray. Through painted lands where armies convey the thrill of conquest at the break of day. Miniature worlds where stories are told. Warriors clash as the battles unfold. In the heart of the game, courage takes hold. Realm of strategy, daring and bold. Realm of strategy, daring and bold.
Guess I could turn that off. All right, guys. Hello again, everybody. This is Derek, and I am coming back at you with another Wargaming and miniature video. Go ahead and activate that camera. Bam! And we've got some figures that I'm currently painting right there. We're making good progress. I am almost finished with these guys, actually. I've only got a couple more colors to do. This green and red, I don't really need to do these. Those would be final touch-ups if I need them. I need to paint the weapons. And I need to paint the straps. Slings and straps. And then just a couple of things in brass. So really, that's all I've got left on these guys. And we'll do that immediately after... There we go. Immediately after I put the new texture paste on these guys. I talked about it in my last video where I said that Mig had this earth tone texture paste. You know, I have the Vietnam one, I have the mud, but I mentioned that they had the earth tone, and I was thinking about getting it, and I forgot that I had already ordered it, and that came in yesterday. So what I want to do is take this earth tone. Now you can see how it kind of looks gray. That's very gray. I'm looking at my monitor and I'm looking at this, and yeah, that's the color that it is. And but the idea is it's going to dry this color, right? And you can see there's a huge difference between the way it's applied and the way it dries. So I want to put it on, because this is their light earth, right? And light earth dries very similar to the way it is in the tub, where this one is a little, I'm not going to say a lot darker, but it is dark. It is sufficiently enough darker. This one is called light earth, and it is exactly that. It's light earth. It's what they claim it to be. This one, oh wow, it feels like it's maybe half empty. Also has that gray look, but I know when it dries on the figure, it dries like this. It really does come out. But and it comes out kind of wet and muddy looking, kind of like, I don't know if you can see that, but that's accurate, right? It comes out kind of like with a glossy, and this is their dark mud ground, which I like it. If you're going to go mud, you might as well go wet, right? And then, but I saw this one is called Turned Earth, right? So, and it's kind of a halfway point between this one, which I thought was too light, this one, which I thought was too dark, and then we got the one in the middle, the turned ground. So what I want to do is I want to put the turned ground on these bases. This is the other one that I use quite a bit, which is the European mud. This dries, and it doesn't really change color. It's actually a really good color, but it has, I think it has sand along with other detritus is in there, but when it dries, the sand with traces of vegetation. Yeah, but I think there's also a little bit of sand in there because it's very grainy, and when it dries, those grains show through as being like a highlight, and you can see all these little dots all over your mud, and I don't really like that look. It's hard to see it. It is hard to see it, but being as anal as I am and a perfectionist, that's a really good set of mud. But when it dries, it dries dry and not like a wet look, and it has those dots in it, which I kind of want to avoid. So let me go ahead. I'm going to grab a couple of boxes so that when I paint these with this texture, and I put them in the box, I won't make a mess or whatever. Okay, so bear with me. Let me grab a couple of boxes. I have these cracker boxes, and I've been saving them for years. I've been using the same cracker boxes for dozens of years. And there should be 4 of them here. Okay. Because the Austin boxes fit inside the Ritz boxes. And there's also another Lance. Lance is another set of boxes. And yeah. Okay. Whatever. Size-wise. Now, I have these 4-inch squares that I use for town sectors, right, on the table. Now, I plan on taking a couple, I could probably do it on these, Oh, I don't know if I want to do it on these. Okay, you know what we're going to do? I'm just going to do one. I'm not going to do all four because I want to have some town sectors with like fences along the perimeter or hedges or stone walls or something like that along the perimeter so that when I put the house in the middle, he's got like a little walled courtyard, as walled room. And then if I ever need to like pull the house off, he's still got that little wall. And I could make a gate and then I could have like a walkway, or I could do like a little garden. I can make a little diorama piece. But really, all I want is mostly flat so that I could put a unit in there to occupy the space. But just for the purpose of this experiment, because I'm not only experimenting on this board, I'm also experimenting on whether or not I want to use it on my, rebasing. When I'm rebasing all my units, do I want to use this mud, or do I want to continue with my Vallejo European mud, or light earth, or what do I want to do? Okay. Now, I'm going to use a Tester's nylon brush that's not really good for anything but this type of terrain building stuffage. But before we get started, I'm gonna. Ooh, that's messed up. But that's okay. I shouldn't interfere with it opening. Some of these I have a problem opening, but that's okay. I can just take a knife and pop it open. Okay. It drinks funny with that little divot in it. So, how's everybody doing today? I hope you're all doing all right. Now, I'm going to shake this up. And I found that adding water to the putty is, it extends the life. But what it does is it kind of deters from the fact that it is supposed to be like uneven ground, or got some kind of texture to it. If you add too much water, it makes it too flat and smooth. So I'm going to try not to do that unless it starts to dry out. Here's some of the other colors. I'm starting to really love the MIG ammo colors paste. There's a couple of reasons why I like this. I'm basically doing a review on this, aren't I? The cap. When I close the cap, I can shake it and nothing's going to come squeezing out the sides. There's no leakage. The AK bottles are the worst. They are the worst. They let air in. They when you shake it, like putty goes flying everywhere because there's never a good seal on the AK pots. Vallejo makes a really good bottle, so you don't really have to worry about Vallejo. And then you got your little seal. What do they call it? Sealed for your protection. Yeah. But it comes off really easy, as you can see. What I do is I leave it in the top. Because then when I screw it down on there, it'll still be there. There we go. And all I'm doing is just slathering it on there. Okay, I don't know if you can see this, but there is texture to that paste. Um, like it's rocky, grainy, rough, which I want it to be that way primarily, but not heavily, because this is a like when I put it on those figure bases, if I wind up using this on those figure bases, I want it to be very dirty and rough like that. But on this town sector, I kind of want it to be fairly smooth because a couple of reasons. I'm going to be putting figures on there. Look how rough that is. That's like crazy. I don't know if you can see that, but it's crazy rough. I'm going to be putting figures on there, and I'm going to be putting buildings on here. And I want the building to sit flat. It doesn't have to. It doesn't have to, but I want it to. And I want the figures to sit flat, but also they don't have to. Okay, and I don't want there to be brush strokes, so I'm doing kind of a, yeah, okay, that's pretty good. I think I got rid of most of my brush strokes. Now I'm going to let that dry for the rest of the live stream. And we'll look at it at the end, and we'll see if it actually did change color. But like right now, you can see the color is the same as what's in the bottle. So when it dries, if it, we'll see if it changes color, if it darkens up. But here's some other examples. They got muddy ground, which I use. No, I'm sorry, I use the dark mud ground. Muddy ground looks even darker. It looks like black. But I use dark mud. Then there's light earth, right? And that is way lighter than that, as I just showed you. But then they have two that are even lighter. They got dry earth and they got arid dry. I'll never use those because that's just way too light for me. Okay, so we got that put off to the side. And I might try putting some fencing on, and then I'll put the texture paste. If this texture paste dries the way I hope it'll dry, we'll use it in the future for all my basing. If it looks really good, right? Okay. Now let's go ahead and jump into finishing these Hanover Landwehr. Got a couple of announcements for the store. The sale ends next week. So I'm looking at my calendar here, my clock, my watch. Today's the 23rd. So yeah, in almost exactly 1 week, the sale should be over. Because it's only for April. 30% off of any order $30 or more. That's a lot. 30% is a crazy amount. I don't think I'm ever going to do a sale that big again. Never know. Never say never. Got a little runny nose action going on. We have everybody that we need for my Pendragon campaign. So that's full. Now, keep your eyes tuned to it because you never know. Sometimes players drop out or don't like the way I run a game or something like that. So if you keep your eyes open, there might be openings in the future. Or these guys might all be well adjusted. They get along really well, and this campaign goes on for years. That's what I'm hoping for. Now, with that order that I got in yesterday, got in not only that texture paste, I got in, what else did I get in? And I think that order actually came directly from MIG. I think I ordered it directly from MIG. And I got this flesh tone. It's called neutral flesh. I would have used this on these figures, but guess what? These guys were already almost finished by the time I got that order in. But it's in the same type of bottle as the Atom, right? It's got the 20 milliliters shaking ball inside, pop top, but it's all ionic. And I was like, what is ionic? But it's co-branded by Ammo and MIG. It's called the MIG Child collection or something like that. Smart colors. I haven't used it. I don't know what it's going to do, but I hope. I mean, it looks good. That color looks good. I like this flesh. I struggle with flesh tones. They have to be good, because see, like, this is the warm skin, and this is neutral. See how they're way different. I also got in uniform blue, right? That's a good looking blue. And I got in a few others. I don't remember what they all were. There's a handful of them. I only got in like 5 or 6 colors. My main thing was getting that texture paste. Okay, what are we painting? We're painting muskets. Muskets. I think I can use this brush. I also got in a couple of War Bases brushes. I think I mentioned that already. Got those two. They just have too fine of a point. It's too fine. Okay. I got a couple of other things in. I can't remember what it is. They were all colors, though. I think I got in a yellow. Yeah, uniform sand yellow, right? That's a odd color to get in, but I got that flesh from Ionic, whatever that is. I got the blue. I think I got a brown in, but I could be wrong. I don't know. If I can't remember, then it doesn't matter. Now, I tried that technique of putting pink on before I put the yellow, and it worked. But then again, the yellow that I use would have gone on top of anything. It's a pretty strong yellow. Which traditionally, yellows are not that good on top of black. But luckily, well, I'm not going to say luckily. I painted them pink, and then I put the yellow on top, and it worked fine. But I don't know if it works better than just painting it white. Because if I'm going to paint it pink, why don't I just paint it white? Because anything painted on top of white, you're going to get the actual true color. Okay, this brush might not be big enough because I'm finding myself, oh, maybe not. It might be just right. Because I do have to go around the hands and stuff. Now I've put another order in. The goal was to get some of that static grass from Knock that says short fibers. So I went ahead and ordered a pack of short fibers. Primarily, this is weird, but primarily to see if it is the same as the one I've got. So I can know, what it is that's in my tub. I think it's Knock Spring Meadow short fibers. But it could have been something else. But I went ahead and ordered the Knock short fibers. When it comes in, I'll compare the two, mine and the one that comes in. And if it's the same, then I'll probably continue to order that as needed. But the only packaging that they have for the short fibers is the 20-gram pack. And the 2.5 millimeter fibers you can get in the 20-gram pack, but you can also get it as a 100-gram pack. And so that's what I have. I've got like 2 of the 100s. And one of my tubs, a 100 fills one of my tubs. So that's pretty cool. But I also noticed that they have a bucket. They have a bucket of 2.5. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's a lot of freaking static grass. But I guess if I was trying to cover a very large table for like railroading or something, a bucket might be just what the doctor ordered. But I have so many different colors and fiber lengths and either ground scatter or static grass or what they call foliage, turf. I got all different kinds, depending on the situation. And I personally think that most of those would be used during terrain building and not figure basing. But they can go on the figures. It also matters if I'm doing like what scale of figure I'm doing. Smaller the scale figure, smaller the static grass. Or ground texture. What do you call it? Scatter. I just ate dinner like maybe 30 minutes before we started. Some sauerkraut and some sausage. And it's going through me. So I think I'm going to take a 5-minute break from painting, and I'll be right back to continue on with the muskets. Now, while I'm away, I'm gonna put a video on. It's only audio. If you're listening, it's what I'm going to put for my. Oh, excuse me. It's what I'm gonna put for my. Media source, maybe that's what it is. Yeah. Okay. That's not it. Okay. So I've got like 6 or 7 songs on here. Yeah, let's properties. There we go. Yep, 7 songs. Listen to all of them, and then... All right, this is the first song that we are going to vote on. Yeah, and then I'm going to have a vote. I'm going to put it up on a poll at some point, but this will give you a chance to hear the songs that I'm thinking about. All right, this is the first song that we are going to vote on. Song number 1.
Tiny soldiers on the table march in line. Painted shields and swords, they shine so fine. Dice roll like thunder, sealing fate. In this battle of ours, let's not be late. Wargaming in miniature, no war castles rise where soda cans stood. Mountains made of books, it's a cardboard wood. Strategy of giants on a scale so flee. We topple empires with a cup of tea. Wargaming in miniature, no war too small. Battles on the tabletop, we'll conquer all. Heroes made of plastic, armies clash and roar. Wargaming in miniature, let's fight some more. Battlegrounds in living rooms, legends unfold in the chaos of dice. Our stories are told from the rookies of war to generals wise. The fate of tiny worlds lies in our eyes. Snacks to the side and the glue close by. We men, broken warriors, give them one more try. Cavalry rides beneath the lamp's warm light. On this tiny frontier, we rewrite the fight. Wargaming in miniature, no war too small. Battles on the tabletop, we'll conquer all. Heroes made of plastic, armies clash and roar. Wargaming in miniature, let's fight some more. Let's fight some more. Let's fight some more. No.
That was song number 1. Now this is song number 2.
Tiny soldiers on a grand paper plane, rolling dice to echo cannon's refrain. Kingdoms rise within this tabletop dust. In strategy and chaos we place our trust. The generals lean with a calculating stare. Hands of fate guide moves with a flare. Tiny hills climb where valleys fall steep. Battles fought while the house stays asleep. Wargaming dreams on a six-sided star. In this microcosm we travel so far. Heroes die small but their legends grow large. In this tiny world we're always in charge. Painted commanders in coats of bold hue patrol the terrain in colors so true. Armies clash with a flick of the wrist. Victory's a mark on a checklist kissed. Dice are the drums of this parade of might. The board is the map glowing soft through the night. Imagination ignites where the pieces collide. A universe unfolds we cannot hide. 100 battles fought in one single room. Victories blazing, entropy and gloom. Armies may fade, but spirits don't rest. In the heat of this game, we earners of trust.
Now that was song 2, and now we're going to go with a shorter song number 3.
In fields of green and battle stage, a world in miniature engaged, with hands that guide the fates of men. The echoes of their clash begin. Each move a story, each step a tale, through crafted lands where dreams prevail. The dice decide the fate unknown, a kingdom built from seeds we sown. The battle cries in silence ring, a world of war where heroes sing. Through painted scenes and crafted lore, we fight for glory evermore. The clash of armies, the thrill it brings, in tiny realms where courage spring. Each piece a soldier, each game a war. We march to victory on this floor. In every role a destiny swings, a miniature world where passion clings. Through strategy and daring lore, we live the battles forevermore.
All right, after song 3, we're going to jump into song number 4.
In the quiet of the battlefield's design, miniature armies march in line. Strategies unfold in measured time. Derek leads with a plan refined. The clash of forces under moonlit skies, echoes of history in their cries. A game of minds where tactics rise. Victory awaits where courage lies. P&O notes trace the paths of war. Electric whispers open the door. Derek commands with wisdom's lore. Through the chaos he seeks to explore. The clash of forces under moonlit skies, echoes of history in their cries. A game of minds where tactics rise. Victory awaits, courage lies.
Okay, that was song number 4. Now we're going to go look at song number 5.
Battles unfold on the tabletop plane. Strategies drawn in the heat of the game. Figures align in the miniature frame. Victory whispers through the thunderous rain. Each move a dance in a silent ballet. Clash of minds in a tactical fray. Through painted lands where armies convey the thrill of conquest at the break of day. Miniature worlds where stories are told. Warriors clash as the battles unfold. In the heart of the game, courage takes hold. Realm of strategy, daring and bold.
right, that was song 5. Now the next song is song number 6.
Battles unfold on the table, less expanse. Miniature warriors in a strategic dance. 15 millimeters of intricate design. A world of conflict in a scaled down line. Terrain crafted with precision and care. Armies maneuver under watchful glare. Dice roll to decide the fate of the day. Strategies clash in a tactical display. In the realm of miniature war and lore, every move opens a new door. 15 millimeters, telltales and all of battles fought and stories bold.
All right, that was song 6. Now we're going to go into the last song, song number 7.
Battles unfold on a crafted stage. Figures move in a strategic cage. Miniature worlds where stories are told. Tactics and plans in the fields of old. Fight the fighties and clash of the gears. Still all one beats fits it. 15 millimeters bring life to the fight. Armies clash under soft table light. Each roll of the dice decides their fate. Victory or loss in this scale day. The marching soldiers in a tiny parade. Fields of green where the battles are made. A world in miniature, story unfolds in the hands of the player. The future holds. Clatter of dice that goes through the air. Strategies devised with the most care. A realm of war on a tabletop plane, where imagination reigns and dreams sustain.
And that was song number 7. Now I'd like to know which one you thought was best. 1 through 7. Let me know. All right, this is the first song that we are going to vote on. Song number... There we go. I was muted. Perfect. Those are the 7 songs that I have narrowed down for the store jingle. I will be doing a video at some point in the next few days with that as the primary theme, where I direct people to the community tab, where I'm going to have, I don't have it up yet, but where I'm going to have a poll to see where my community stands, like which ones you like the best, which ones do you think would serve me the best as my introduction music for my videos, And that's the idea, that instead of using generic YouTube music as my introduction music, which is what I'm doing now. Well, I've stopped doing it, but that's what I have been doing. I want to have a song that kind of says who I am and what kind of channel this is. I tried to get a variety of genres and vocalists, and just to kind of get an idea, not to get an idea, to give me a variety of choices. Now, there's a few of them on there that I really like, and there's some of them that I don't like. Well, that's not really true. I wouldn't have put these 7 on my list if I didn't like them. So, because I had something like somewhere around 20 or so submissions. And out of those, I narrowed it down to these 7. I noticed that a couple of them use my name in the lyrics, like they say Derek. Derek does this, Derek does that. That kind of strokes my ego a little bit, but that's not going to be a necessity to win or to become my new store jingle. And just to give you a little context, I'm going to have an opening song and a closing song. And the opening song at the start of my videos might or might not play for more than 20 seconds. You know, it's just basically okay, we're here. But the closing song, you know, when I say goodbye, everybody, that song will play in its entirety. They can be the same song, or they could be different songs. There's also a couple of songs in there that say my store name, which is Wargaming in Miniature. But the problem is the artist that sings the title doesn't or didn't know how to pronounce the store name. Instead of saying Wargaming, they say Wargaming. So that is kind of a positive and a negative at the same time. There's also a couple of songs that talk about 15 millimeter miniatures. But I do more than 15 millimeter. I personally have a large collection of 15 millimeter. But the store, and that's what this is written for, doesn't really focus on 15 millimeter. It focuses on 25, 28 millimeter. So I don't know if that's a positive or a negative, or if it even matters, because it's just indicative of miniature gamers or miniature figures on a table. And one of the songs talks about plastic models, which a lot of our models are plastic, but not all of them. Actually, I prefer metal. I did have a song out of my first 20, the ones, the missions that I had. One of the artists sings about plastic, metal, and resin. And I was impressed. I was like, oh my gosh. But the song just sucked. It wasn't that good of a song. So I didn't put it on the list. Now I noticed we had a comment. I can't, just so you know, if you're new to the channel, I can't read the comments with these glasses on because these suckers are like super magnified for painting. I have to switch out my reading glasses to see the comments. Even though I know it's not a comment, it's just a couple eyeballs. Okay, I'm having a hard time reading your name. I want to say C. Riverdang, but that's not right. That's Ribacheg. Ribacheg. Sounds maybe German. Maybe Czech or that general area of the world. I could be wrong. But hey, eyeballs. That means you're watching. Thanks. I appreciate it. I'm currently using a color called New Wood for muskets. I have something called Old Wood that I consider, but the Old Wood is, I don't know, it's a different, it has a different look when it dries. It kind of looks like dried out wood. And I've also got a color over here called just straight wood, and it's super light, you know, like compare the colors. It's like super light. I use this for drums. Army Painter, not Army Painter, Plastic Soldier Company used to, they don't do it anymore, they used to sell their models in boxes, and on the back of the boxes they would have paint schemes for different, you know, whatever unit you're buying, like the British paratroopers or German grenadiers or whatever you're buying. They would have a Vallejo paint list on the back, and they recommend beige brown for muskets or rifles, World War II rifles. And I used that for a long time. But now I'm using New Wood, which is just a little bit darker than the beige brown. Because I like my rifles to be a little darker. I used to use like a really dark brown for my muskets back in the day. But I pretty much stopped doing that. Okay, I think this brush is not thick enough. It seems to be, you know, that's what she said. No, I think I need to go into my bucket of brushes and find one that's a little bit thicker, but not to the point that it becomes obnoxious. There's a double O right there. Okay, I'm going to try it. Because this is a 3-0. Yeah, 3-0. This is a 2-0. It's a lot thicker, though. It's, I don't know, it's a different brand. This is Airbrush Tower, which I normally do not endorse. But every now and then I have a brush from them that works out really well. Hopefully this is one of them. Because they don't hold a point at all. And speaking of holding a point, I think it's overdue that I clean my brushes. I don't think I cleaned them on April 1st. And if you've been following my channel for any amount of time, you know that once a month, right about real close to the first of the month, is when I break out all my brush cleaning supplies and I spend a day cleaning brushes. Because I like to, because I'm a cheapskate and I don't want to buy brushes over and over and over. I want to have them last for years. So every month I put them through the cleaning rigmarole. And that way my brushes last for about a year before I have to replace them. Now, I don't know how long that texture paste takes to dry. You know, what I put on that town sector board. But I would expect that after about an hour or so, I should be able to inspect them. So I did a little, okay, I know how I'm going to do formations with my, remember I'm writing a set of rules for Napoleonics. I went ahead and I've already taken photos. I think I did that on a live stream actually. But I've already taken photos of the various formations. So I pretty much got that set in stone. I think that is pretty much no problems. So now I need to decide a couple of things. How I want to do movement. How I want to do activations, command and control, you know, that kind of stuff. All of that, all of these tie together. All these things I'm about to talk about. The command and control, like why do I have a model of a general on the table? Why do I do this? Because now if you're just having brigade, like if I have, like think about black powder. If you're rolling for individual units, then why do you need to have a brigade commander on the table? You know, and my thought process is I want to lean into the brigade commanders. I want to lean into division commanders and corps commanders. Why have those models on the table if they don't do anything? Now, I really like the mechanics from Napoleon's battles, where your generals are basically points that you measure from to determine if your units are in command. And if they're in command, then they get to do things. I am not going to make people roll against every battalion to get them to do something. I am not going to do that. I think that's overly cumbersome and unnecessary mechanic in the game. Okay, so how far can they move? how does movement work and all that. That's all kind of in flux, and I'm still thinking about that. Land of the Free has a actions, like every battalion has a number of actions they can perform. Like shooting is an action, moving is an action, reloading, rallying, all these different things are actions. And I'm thinking about doing it like that so that when you activate a brigade or a battalion or a division or however I'm going to do it, it's probably going to be by brigade. Every battalion that's in command will get its full action allotment. But I think if you're out of command, you'll still get an action. You just won't get all of them, right? You'll get one action or something like that. But let's just say, I haven't decided yet, but let's just say that you've got 4 actions. And you decide to use them on to shoot is one action. Reload, that's your second action. Shoot is your third action. And then reload is your fourth action. So you will effectively have shot twice. A year ago, when I was really thinking these mechanics up, I was thinking of giving everybody 2 actions. One could be movement or shooting. And then if you don't move, you could shoot twice. So effectively, by doing it this way, I'm accomplishing the same thing without really saying, if you don't move, you can shoot twice. Because if I give them 4 actions, that seems like a lot, actually. But let's say I give them 4 actions, and they shoot, they reload, they shoot, and now they've got a 4th action. They could use it to move. The downside is, if they do that, they won't be reloaded. So there needs to be a status where you mark units that are not loaded. I guess I could use the term unloaded. And then on the very, before they can shoot, they have to reload. So maybe on the following turn, the next time they get to activate, the first thing they do is reload. Or in that situation, if they don't shoot at all, they could just move 4 times. Move, 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 move. Right? Which I figure if you're not shooting, you're not standing still, you're not trying to line up and aim your shots and all that, then you can move. So that's what I'm thinking. And then I have to think, how far do I want a unit to be able to move? And then divide that by 4. Just so you know, this is what I'm kind of thinking on. I'm kind of thinking 4 actions. And I'm thinking 12 inches. That's what she said. But if I think 12 inches and I divide by 4, I'm getting a 3-inch movement per action. Which to me is pretty good. So if you start the turn loaded, you could move once, move twice, that's 6 inches, and then you could fire and reload. So basically you can move 6 inches and shoot. And that's kind of where I want the game to be. But if you wanted to move 9 inches, you could, and then you could fire, but then you would be unloaded. And that's kind of what I want to do. I want to make it very easy for the players to grasp. But it's complicated enough that it gives them a lot of freedom to make decisions on how they want to use their troops. Do they need them to move? Do they need them to shoot? You know, do they need them to reload? So technically there could be a bunch of tokens on the table indicating unloaded. And the way I think would be the best way to mark that would be with a cotton ball. If you put a cotton ball in front of a unit, think of that like the smoke of the muskets. I might even darken them up and say they're, black or gray cotton balls from black powder, because black powder smoke is not white. So mark them with cotton balls. So a unit with a cotton ball in front of it looks like it just fired because you got that puff of smoke in front of the unit. And that lets you know that they're not loaded. They're unloaded. So I think that would be a very easy way to keep track of that. And 3 inches is not that far. Especially when I'm using a 2/3 measurement on my tabletop. So I have range rulers that are made out in 3-inch measurements. But on the table, I mean, in reality, they're only 2 inches. That 3-inch measurement is basically for 28mm wargamers. But 15mm wargamers are using a 2/3 scale. So like those 4-inch templates that I'm using for buildings, it would represent 6 inches on a 28mm table. I hope all that makes sense. Now the question is, should a march column move faster than a line? Because all humans move at human pace. Horses and cavalry and stuff like that will be different. They'll have light cav and heavy cav will have their own movement. Artillery, light or heavy, will have its own movement. Limbered or unlimbered, etc., etc. But will infantry or cavalry have their movement adjusted based on the formation they're in? I think the answer is yes. Yeah, I think the answer is yes. Because I was in the service. I did drill and ceremony, which in the Army today, drill and ceremony is a callback to the American War of Independence, when you fought in lines and columns and march columns. It was a way to train you how to maneuver in those formations to get into firing lines. But nowadays, it's just for marching. But back in the day, the exact same maneuvers were used for combat purposes. So, and there was one truth. When you were in line, as opposed to a column, and you had to dress the right dress, you're constantly adjusting your pace to keep up with the guy on the far right. That's why it's called dress right dress. You're dressing the lines, straightening them, based on how fast the guy on the right was moving. And if you've ever been in the service and they ask you to do a wheel left, wheel right, it was like herding cats. The guy on the outside edge had to almost double time to keep up with the guys in the middle, because they weren't really concerned with the guy on the outside. They were just marching. If they were good at it, they would slow down and allow the guys on the left time to march without having to double time. But my point is, wheeling and marching in line, it was all a slow process, because you're always trying to autocorrect, and trying to make sure that the line is straight. And basically, so I don't want to give a penalty for people in line. I think I want to give a bonus to people in column. Because people in column, I am going to penalize them when it comes to shooting. Because they just won't have the right amount of people in the front shooting, right? Now, if you remember, my columns have two figures in the front, two movement stands. And I was gonna perform shooting just because I want to keep everything simple, and I want to break it down, or I want the math to work out where there's no math. Basically, I want it to be so intuitive that there doesn't really have to be an explanation. I just want it to work, right? So like when you're playing, you just look at the table and you go, "Oh, it's obvious. It's this. It's this." Or, I'm in this formation, so I get this many dice. Period. It's super easy. So what I was thinking was, you get one die per figure base I think my OBS might have crashed and then came back up. Okay, so we might have had a disconnect. But that's okay, we're back. So if you think about a standard unit is 4 bases, and if they're in line, each base will throw 1 die. So they'll basically get a 4 die shot. And every unit, Landwehr, militia, grenadier guards, they'll all get 1 die per base in the front rank. Now, there can be other modifiers, but that's how many dice they're going to throw. And an attack column, because it's 2 bases in the front, is going to only throw 2 dice. So basically, their firepower is halved. But you don't have to say that. It's obvious. You know, it just works out in the mechanics of the game. You only throw as many dice are in the front rank. So if you are, let's say, a large battalion and you've got 6 bases in line, you would be throwing 6 dice. But in march column, you're still only throwing 2 dice. Not march column, attack column. Now, using those rules, you would assume that a march column would throw 1 die because it's in march column. Well, march column's going to get a special rule that says they get 0 dice when shooting. Basically, only attack columns and lines get to shoot. And they shoot with their front rank. That'll be easy to teach, easy to understand, and it will accomplish, game mechanically, it'll accomplish what I want it to accomplish. Instead of saying every battalion gets 4 dice and the dice are halved when in column, you don't have to say that. People will just know. And a large battalion, it wouldn't be halved. It would be, it would be a third anyway if it was a large battalion. Okay, I might have put too much water in this. So I'll just be careful. Or I might have put the exact amount that I needed. My stomach has got some serious comments. Okay, so that's how you determine how many dice you get to roll. Now my problem is, what do I do with these dice? And are we throwing D6s or are we throwing D10s? I really want to throw D10s. Because that way, a +1 is not as powerful as if it was a D6. a +1 with a D6, and a +1 is the least that you could get, right? It's like the smallest modifier. On a D6, that's 16%. Wait, 16%? Yeah, 16%. Well, 16 and some change, but just go with 16%. Where a D10, a +1 is 10%. And a +2 is only 20%, which is not much bigger than a +1 on a D6. So I can have more granularity, I guess is the word I'm looking for. I can have more control over the modifiers with a D10 based game. Because a +2, okay, hold on. Let's just say, and I'm looking at you, Bolt Action. Let's just say a wooden fence or a hedge line or something like that gives you a +1, but a stone wall gives you a +2. Okay, just using that kind of as a metaphor. That +2 for the stone wall is 32%. You just gave a 32% modifier, which I think is excessive. Sometimes you need excessive, don't get me wrong. But I personally think that in a black powder game like my marshals and generals, a +3 would be very strong. I mean, very few circumstances would get a +3 or a -3, plus or -3, a modification of 3, because that's what a +2 on a D6 is. Actually, a +2 is better than a +3 on a D10. So that's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking that I'm going to go with a D10 system. Now, there's something in Napoleon's battles that I really liked, but I also thought was annoying. And I'm debating on whether or not I want to lean into that rule. And that's both sides roll dice. So I shoot at you, I roll dice, and you roll dice. And based on our combined results, will determine what I do, or how much damage you take, or whatever. Well, that is a really good rule when it's a one die shot. Because Napoleon's battles, you throw one die when you shoot. And it's a modified die roll. Based on a lot of different things. But it is modified. And that won't work for my system because I'm throwing 4 dice, just hypothetically. I'm throwing 4 dice. If you were to throw 4 dice in defense, how would we compare the dice to determine who won? And I thought about this. I was thinking, you can put the highest number versus the highest number, or you could put let the defender choose which die applies against what attacking die. So if let's say I attack and I roll all 5s, and you roll a defense and you roll 3 4s. No, let me back that up. Let's say I roll a 10 and 3 5s. And you roll a 10 and 3 4s. And if you compared them, you would have lost all the fights. But if you take your 10 and apply it against one of my 5s, at least you know that you won one of the shots, so you could defend yourself. And I was thinking, that's a really good system. It lets the defender kind of choose if he wants to, how he wants to apply his dice. But then I thought to myself, Derek, what are you doing? That's just overcomplicating the combat mechanics for no reason. You're just trying to act smart, You're just trying to put more dice in the game because everybody likes rolling like big handfuls of dice or whatever. And is it going to change the outcome of the game? No. So I decided against the compared dice. So the attacker rolls a bunch of dice. And these dice will be modified based on defender's cover or range or weather or whatever the situation is. And I haven't decided what my modifiers are going to be. But basically, the dice will get modified. And the way I look at it is, if you roll really good, well, that just is very similar to rolling good against your opponent who rolls really bad. But it takes the second roll out of the equation. Speeding up the game, right? Because I'm trying to go with a fast, fun, and playable game without overcomplicating unnecessarily. So it'll be an attacker die roll with modifiers based on the attacker or the defender. So, like, if the defender's behind earthworks, the attacker might get a -3. But if it's extreme range, maybe they'll get a -1. Or it's raining, they might get a -1. I don't know, something like that, right? Shooting at a square formation might be a +1. Wow, I think I have to go use the bathroom again. Okay, guys, I'll be right back. My stomach is telling me that I've got business that I have to pertain or attend to. And then we'll be back to our conversation about marshals and generals. I'll be right back. Also, speaking about movement, I didn't mention. Oh, I mentioned it, but I didn't clarify the bonus you get for being in line versus column versus march column. I was thinking that, and also based on the way my range rulers will be constructed and players making their own range rulers for their games, I want everything to be divisible by 3 inches, right? And so if you're in march column, your movement speed or your movement is doubled for each action that you spend on movement. So it would be basically 6 inches for every action, which if you spend 4 actions on movement while in march column, you're getting 24 inches of movement. So basically, you're flying across the battlefield if you're in march column. And if you're in attack column, I was thinking, and I haven't really settled on this yet, if you spend an action moving, you basically get 1 free action or 1 free movement action. Well, not movement action. Let me rephrase that. 1 free move. So if you move 3 inches, you could actually move 6 inches with 1 action if you're in an attack column. If you spend a second action moving, it's no bonus. You don't get an additional action. You only get double move if you're in march column. So an attack column, spending all 4 actions on movement, would normally be 12, but that 1 extra action lets you move 15. And I think that's a good way to represent the bonus move or the increased speed without actually changing any speeds. Because I thought about, just adding an inch to everybody's move if they're in a attack column, and then add 2 inches per move if they're in a march column or something like that. What that winds up doing is you wind up having a 4-inch move or a 5-inch move, and the range rulers are broken down in increments of 3 inches. Um, And changing formation is one action. Stationary will let you change formation. But I am going to impose limits on what formations can change into what formations. So basically I'll have almost like a formation tree where you have march column at one end of the spectrum and line at the other end of the spectrum. With march column, with the attack column in the middle. So that when you change formation, you can only go up or down this this tree by one branch. So a march column cannot change directly into a line with only one action. It would require two. But you could change from a march column, a march column, into an attack column with one action. Or you could change from an attack column to a line with one action. But if you were in a line, you could not change into a march column with one action. It would require two. Now, there's a formation that's outside of this chart, which is called the square. And the square is attached to a line or an attack column. You must be in one of those two formations to form square. But remember, you get 4 actions. So think about this. If you're in a march column, you could move twice, giving you a 3, which counts as a 6, and then another 3, which counts as another 6. So you're moving 12 inches, and then you spend an action to go into column, and then you spend another action to go into square. It was all movement. You started in march column, you flew across the table in 12 inches, which really isn't that far. And then you went straight to a square. All of that, I'm okay with. I think that's going to be real easy to manage, easy to remember way to change formations. Now, let's say you start off in a square. You spend one action to change to an attack column. You move twice, which gives you 3 movements, right? Because if you're an attack column, you get 1 free movement if you move. So you move 9 inches, and then you use your last action to reform square. If you wanted to do that. And I think that's okay. I know some games say like squares move really slow, or they hardly move at all, if at all, or well, I'm saying a square does not move at all. If you want to move while in a square, you have to change out of the square temporarily, move, and then switch back into a square. Now, 9 inches seems like it's a really far distance to move while being in a square. So I might have to rethink that. Maybe a square can only move into a line? And a line move is only 3 inches? Yeah, I might do that. You have to be if you're in a square, you have to switch to a line. Or I could say to be able to receive that plus 1 free move when you move, you have to start the turn in column. So that would bring a square. If they wanted to switch into a column, they could, but they wouldn't get the bonus movement. They would still only move 6 inches with 2 actions. I could do it that way too. I'll have to think about it. To get the bonus, you have to start the turn. So like if you're in a line or a march column and you switch into an attack column, you don't get the bonus movement. You're too busy switching. I'm liking that rule. It's not complicated. It wouldn't be hard to remember. It does what I want it to do without being a bespoke rule. Yeah, we're working it out on stream live. Now, shooting, we know how many dice we're going to roll. We know that the attacker will be modified. But what does that mean? Now, back up. I also thought about using special dice for all of my attacks. Like Meg. Meg is written with a D6 in mind. Because they have special dice, but technically it's just a D6. And I think it works really good for what it is. Because in Meg, you're actually killing off bases. But in my game, what do those dice do? They don't kill off bases. There's no figure removal. It's a lot like Black Powder or Hail Caesar in that regards, where you're just, or even Land of the Free. You don't remove bases in Land of the Free. You just take, and I'm going to call it coherency, because there are losses you just don't see them on the table. The figures, there is losses, there are people dying. We're just not pulling any miniatures up off the table. And when a unit takes a lot of losses, there's going to be a lot of holes in their formation. And which is going to modify how they fight going forward. It's also going to modify their morale. Now, how do I want to affect? How do I want that to affect the game? I don't know. I haven't really worked that out yet. But these dice are going to cause hits. These hits are going to affect the unit. Maybe causing morale checks or pushback. Routes. Stuff like that. I don't know. And that's where I'm struggling right now is combat results. I'll figure it out. I'll work something out and I'll test it. And if I don't like it, I can always change it. And then melee. I think I want to have both sides roll dice. Because it's not just standing there getting a bullet in the chest. It's fighting back your skill versus their skill. And so more experienced troops might be better in melee than less experienced troops. But an experienced troop is not going to stop a bullet any better than an inexperienced troop. So I'm thinking shooting is just going to be the attack roll with modifiers. But melee is going to be both sides roll dice. I haven't worked that out yet either. But that's where I'm thinking. Okay, all the muskets are done. Well, not done. The wood is done. I can actually take my wood and put it away, clearing the table. Okay, before we go any further, and I don't really want to go much further on these figures today, or at least not on stream. Oh, excuse me. Because we got a couple other things I want to do on stream before we close it out. But it's almost 12 o'clock. Let me go ahead and pull my uniforms up. There we go. And then we go to the Hanover, Landwehr, and they're all the same. But so I'm just going to check on, let's say, Lüneburg. That's one of them. What was I going to check? There was something I needed to look up. Crap! Now I'm can't. Oh, that's right. It's looks like it's a brass, not a brass plate. Yeah, like a brass plate on the Shako. Okay, I might need to double check these. Yeah, Lüneburg is one of them. That's going to be brass. Osterode is the next one. It's also brass, which I expected. Oh, that's the green ones. That's these guys down here. Okay, and then Verden and Munden. Brass. Except for the officer, is he... I'm going to do them all brass. Right. So what was that? Was that Verden? Okay, Verden and Munden. Yeah, they're all brass. Okay. That's what I was wondering. So basically, all four of them are brass, which I kind of expected. So brass is this color. Only thing I'll have left after brass is the white and the metallic, and then I'll be done. All right, but before we do that, which I'm going to do probably after lunch, I'm not going to do it on this stream. I want to check on my mud. Okay, it's pretty dry. Look how rough that is. I don't know if you can really, I don't know if it's focusing. I think I turned off autofocus. Let me make sure the autofocus is on. Oh, it's on. Okay. So yeah, you can see how rough that is, right? Okay. Now, and it's dry. It's dry as dirt. This is light earth. It's darker than that. This is the dark mud, which, remember, it dries darker than this. It dries almost like that. These color palettes they show on the side, these are pretty accurate. So, stop rolling, bitch. It fits in between those. It's not that brown. It's still kind of gray. It didn't dry like extra dark. I don't know if this light is really doing it justice. I don't know. I kind of feel like that's still a little gray. Well, to really know, I'm going to use this turned earth on these Landwehr. All four of them are going to get this color. And with grass added onto it, it's going to disguise this color anyway. I want to see what it looks like with grass on it and on these figures. Yeah. I'm not putting grass on it right now. All right, guys. Well, that's where we're going to end the stream. It dried. It didn't darken up as much as I thought it was going to darken up. It stayed pretty gray. I could always add paint, but just, to the mix to darken it up or to make it more brown or whatever. But just remember, when you add paint, you're actually thinning it out. And remember what I said about thinning. It makes it smooth and runny, and it's less of a paste, less of a texture. So if you're going for texture, it's hard to add paint, or at least enough to really make a difference. I could put a few drops of brown in there just to see if it would fix it. Plus, I can always get like a little mixing cup, put a little paste in there, and then put a couple of drops of brown and then stir it up and use it and just see if that has any impact at all, you know. I might do that on another one of my buildings, town sectors. Mainly because it'll actually help. It won't hurt. Because the town sectors, I want them to be fairly flat and not as rough as that. That rough is really good, might be really good for a larger model. But on these 15 millimeters, I'm already going to be adding a little ballast or callus or whatever on there. And that's another thing. I ordered some callus months ago. And I also ordered some. Now, there's a difference between ballast and talus. Ballast is really fine rocks that you might put on a railroad track to simulate the gravel that they put under railroads. And it is very fine. Not sand fine, but it is still very fine. But it's not as coarse enough for what I need to do. So the next level up. Now, don't get me wrong. There is very fine, coarse, very coarse ballast. But even the very coarse ballast is still too small. The rocks are still too small. So if you take the step up and you go to talus, talus is like scatter terrain, rocks and boulders and stuff like that on a terrain map. When I ordered this talus, and I have it in a bag over there on my wall, I ordered coarse, not realizing how big these rocks are going to be. These rocks are as big as one of these models. They're giant. So I don't know if it's very coarse or coarse, but yeah, they're giant rocks. Because I was thinking I was ordering very coarse ballast, but in fact I was ordering very coarse talus. The size difference was more than I anticipated, but it was my mistake. I'm not sending it back. I still have it in a bag over there. So if I ever need these big rocks for terrain projects, for like Warhammer or something like that, I'll have them. But that just led me to, because what I want the talus for, or what I want the rocks for, is not for their bases, not to scatter on their bases, but I want to build some rock walls. I want to lay out a bead of glue and put rocks on there, and then when it dries, put another bead of glue on top, put another row of rocks, and basically build up a wall. And I don't know if you know this, but I could build a wall like 2 feet long using this, using wax paper or whatever, just laying out a bead or putting the bead on a base that I was going to use. But if I'm going to do a 2-foot strip, I do it on wax paper. I put a bead of glue, rocks, a bead of glue, rocks, and every hour putting another layer of rocks and building up a wall of rocks. And as high or as tall as I want, probably about 5 millimeters. That's maybe 3 or 4 layers of rocks. That's all I need. But if I had a 2-foot strip of this one wall, I could just take it and break it at whatever length I needed. So if I needed a 2-inch strip of wall, I could go 2 inches and just break it. And then I'd have a 2-inch strip to make little corners or walls for terrain for my town sectors or whatever. And so that's why I was getting them. Now, I have seen people making a mold and then putting wax paper down inside the mold and then putting the rocks inside between 2 walls of wax paper. And then when it dries, you break the walls apart and then you have this wall that's standing up, and you could do it all in one go, right? I wouldn't need to build the wall. I could just put the rocks down inside this mold. I think that would work really good for aquarium rocks, big rocks, rocks that would be like 1/4 of an inch thick. But since I'm doing something that's only maybe 1/8 of an inch thick, building the mold might be more work than it's worth, and getting the wax paper inside the mold so that when I put the rocks in and pull it out, I can take the wax paper off of it. All of that is more work than it's worth, and hand stacking these rocks will be satisfying. But what I think I'm going to wind up doing, and this is being honest, I've got these 6-inch popsicle sticks, which are only 10 millimeters wide. I'm going to build walls using, I could have like 10 of these popsicle sticks on the table, and I can put a strip of glue on each one and then stack rocks and then let it dry. I could let it dry overnight, and then I could go back in and stack more rocks and then let it dry, and I could stack more rocks. And if I use tacky glue, it should go together really good. So I might do that on stream, like one of these sessions that we have, like what we're doing today. I might televise it, or I might record it as a tutorial, because it's going to go on for multiple hours. So maybe I'll do a little bit of a recording and then cut, dry, another recording with me working on it, cut, let it dry, come back and do that, and then show people how these walls are built. But the issue is the raw materials. So I ordered some talus, but I ordered the smaller scale talus, because the ballast isn't big enough. I mean, it would be okay for like, just rocks scattered around on someone's base or whatever. But when it comes to these stone walls that I want to build, and there's a couple of versions of stone walls that I want to build. American War of Independence, the old walls, early in America's history, we had, you've heard of it, the plow. Okay, well, this ground was never plowed, right? And it was only plowed recently, like 250 years ago. So when the ground was plowed, the farmers would get these giant rocks. This is very, very, very similar to what happened in France. They would plow the ground, they would take these rocks, They would put them on the edge of their field, get them out of the way, and they would stack them along the edge of the field, or just throw them and get them on the edge of the field. And then over time, after plowing these fields, they would have these mounds of rocks along the outer perimeter of their crop. And in France, over the years, hundreds and thousands of years, those rock outcroppings, or whatever you want to call them, became bocage. They were stacked high, covered in dirt. Trees were growing out of the top of them. Bushes covered them. So these bocage are not just mounds of dirt. They're like filled with rocks. They had to develop specific bocage cutters on tanks to be able to get through them. I think Cullen came up with this device to attach to the front of the tank so he could cut their way through these bocage. But in America, we haven't been here long enough for those mounds of rocks to become bocage. And we probably would never let that happen anyway. We would go out and tend those rocks. We would stack them into actual walls, or we would, being the capitalists we are, we would try to sell them. But in the American War of Independence, they did have, they're not even really walls. They're just rows of mounds of rock, maybe a foot or two tall. And then what they would do, this is the colonists, what they would do is they would put wood fencing on top of those rocks. So you would have a rock on the base, a bunch of rocks on the base, and then fencing on top of that. And that's what I want to build. I want to build something very American War of Independence looking, but I also want to build just rock walls that you could use for later periods, medieval, or earlier periods, medievals or World War II, or maybe even ancients, I just want to build some normal rock walls, and I want to build some American War of Independence rock fences. So I ordered some of that. I ordered some of that grass I talked about. And then I ordered a couple of other paints. Also, during my next store update, which I'll talk about all this in my next store update, but Mig sent me, first of all, they sent me a golden ticket. That's pretty cool. Willy Wonka and the golden ticket. I got a golden ticket from Mig. It's only usable in May, so I can't even use it until May. But they sent me a bunch of things, pamphlets and like guides. Like this is their weathering user guide. And then they sent me Cobra Motor Sports guide, which I think are enamels, and I probably will never use them. They sent me a guide on their oil brushers, which I think is they're if you can see this, they're oil paints that come with their own brush inside. So it's kind of like some of my glues, where you screw the glue has a brush on the bottom of it. But these are like fine tip, but they're basic colors, yellow, red, blue, stuff like that. But they're oil, and I don't plan to use oils. Remember that flesh that I showed off early in the video? They sent me a flyer showing off all of their iconic line, which I really like. There's a lot of good colors. Here, let me see if I can show you. there's 2 pages of colors of this iconic line. I think I might wind up ordering some of them in the coming future. I still want to test the flesh to see it's okay. Where is my? I don't know where it is. Oh, here it is. I got one iconic. I guess it's not iconic. It's ionic. IONIC. Okay, it's not icon. It's ion. It's ionic. I can't see it, the glare. But this seems to be a really good color for flesh. I can't wait to use it. They also sent me their Rail Center colors, which I probably will never order and use. They have a new release coming out. I'm not sure what day. It says new in March. So it's probably out already. This T800. I think I might want to order one of those. I thought about this a year ago when I was doing my Macedonians. If this is what I think it is, it's got 35 adjustable speeds. It's a drill, but it's not it's a pin vise drill. It's I got my face in the way. It's a pin vise, but it's not me manually drilling. It's rechargeable because it has like a USB plug in it. I can set the speed to super slow. I don't know what the lowest speed is. I'm going to have to find out. But on my Macedonians, my pikemen, I had to drill out every one of their hands. And I did hundreds of these Macedonians. Hundreds of pikemen. And I had to drill them out one at a time using my hand pin vise, and that took forever. And not just that, it tired my hand out, and that's why it took so long. If I had a power drill, now I thought about Dremel tooling and stuff like that, but Dremel is way too fast. If this will go as slow as I hope it will, if it'll just go like this and not, if it goes, I would be able to hold the miniature, hold the drill, and just go, done, next one, done, next one. That's what I'm hoping for. And then they also gave me this Atom, which, as you can see, I'm using. Oh, you can't see the focus. Atom. I'm using Atom paints quite a bit lately. They showed off their entire line of Atom, which a lot of it I don't already need because I have either AK or Vallejo already in those colors. So I wish I had discovered Atom a couple of years ago because I would have a lot of them. Same price as a Vallejo paint, but Vallejo 16 ounce or 17 milliliters versus 20 milliliters. That's the first thing. No mixing ball. Yes, there's a mixing ball. There's a mixing ball in every Atom, and it's also 20 milliliters. The new Vallejo, which I don't think I've got one down there. The new Vallejo And the new bottles have a different dropper head, which I have mixed feelings about. It comes out it kind of squirts out instead of drips out. And there's 18 milliliters. So they've upped their milliliters, but the mixing ball and the 20 milliliters makes a big difference. And the Atom paint, it's good. I'm happy with it. Let's just say. Now in May, I think I'm going to use this golden ticket coupon on that drill. When I get it in, I'll do a product review. I wish that MIG would just send me one to do a product review on, but beggars can't be choosers. If they don't, I'll buy one. Because now I don't have a lot of stuff to drill right now, but if I did, I would love to have had that drill. If it's what I think it is. It might not be. Its slowest speed might still be too fast. I don't know yet. We'll figure it out. All right, guys. Well, thanks for hanging out with me this morning. Look for some Skyrim later tonight. And I think I'm going to do a video about a store news update. I might do that tonight as well. What other videos do I need to really do? I almost did a video about my spreadsheet on my Napoleonic project update, which I might do when I finish these guys, just to do it all at one time. Because when I finish these guys, I plan to do close-ups and do a Napoleonic project update. Plus, I might do a Napoleonic project update about the rules that I have locked in. Just letting everybody know, kind of what we've already discussed today, but do it in a more structured format. Plus, I just thought about it. I need to do another video, or I need to do a video that refers you, the viewer, to my community tab on YouTube to take the survey, which the survey is not up yet. When I do that video, I'll create the survey. I want to know which of these songs you would prefer. Like, which ones do you like? Do you like any of them? Do they all suck? Should I put out a call for more videos, more songs? Do any of them inspire you? Do any of them get you pumped to watch the video? Any of that. That's really what the video that video is going to be about. All right, I'm going to let you guys go. I'm going to go watch some cartoons or something. No, I'm not. I'm going to probably put on some political YouTuber while I finish painting. And I'll catch you in the next one.